Welcome to Worm for Reviews, and I have for you guys today is the top 10 movies of 2017. Now, these movies are not going to be the most critically acclaimed movies or the best movies that you think are the best, because there's no way that we could have the same opinion. These are the 10 best movies that I saw in 2017. Coming in at number 10 is Shock Collar, and I can't pronounce his name, so I'm just going to call him Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. Shock Collar has a lot of themes, and it's about us being institutionalized and also choosing one path. You think you're going in a certain path, and then something happens, and then your life takes a complete 180. And when you go on that, you find new purpose, you find new meaning, and you might find happiness even though it's completely opposite from where you started. This movie just gives you all those perspectives. So if you haven't seen Shock Collar, I strongly recommend it. One of the best prison movies ever made. War for the Planet of the Apes comes in at number 9. Now, this movie coming in, I was excited. It was one of the most anticipated movies of the year because the first two movies with Koba and even the first one with James Franco, when everything started, has been just an excellent trilogy. Each movie bringing something different to the table. This movie was more about Caesar and his character development from the beginning of the trilogy to the end. And this movie ties into the original 1978 film, so I thought that was really good. And I hope Andy Serkis finally gets a nomination for Best Actor because he absolutely deserves it. Coming in at number 8, I have Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Now, this movie, there's so much going on in this movie. It's a story about a mother who's pissed off that her daughter's rape murder. They still haven't found who did all those crimes, and the local sheriff and the police department, they're incompetent, they're racist, they're just not getting anything done. So she decides to put up some controversial billboards throwing shade at the sheriff, and then all kinds of stuff happens. It has a lot of social commentary that is relevant to today. You have police brutality, you have police abusing power, you have negligence, you have domestic violence, you have attempted murder. I mean, there's so much stuff that's going on, and the character development and 3 of the characters in this movie was excellent. The mother, you have Woody Harrelson, who he kills it in his role, and then you have a cop who was raised by a racist mother, and that gets passed down to their kids. So they even touch on all that. So I strongly recommend you watch Three Billboards, and that's gonna be number 8 on my top 10. Number 7, I have Get Out. I was just surprised how good this movie was. There's so much stuff going on in this movie. I mean, if you haven't heard about Get Out, I don't know what you're doing. Everyone's heard about Get Out. So Get Out for me is number 7. Number 6 was one of the most anticipated movies of the year coming in, and that is It. The It remake hit on all cylinders. The cast, the young actors in this movie, they all worked. There wasn't a moment wasted on the screen time. The new clown was actually scarier than the 1990s version. It's just a cultural phenomenon because people who read the books, they grew up on the books, then you grew up on the 1990s TV series, and now you have this. So it's just people, it's kind of like Star Wars, where some kids grow up in it, and then the next generation grows up in it, and then the next generation. So everybody's like, it's kind of like a big event that everyone wants to see. And this movie, I can't wait for the sequel. So It for me is the number 6. And number 5 came out of nowhere again, and that is Girls Trip. Girls Trip for me is the funniest movie of 2017. I mean, Tiffany Haddish just absolutely killed her role in this movie. There's a lot of scenes where she just makes you cry laughing because this movie's so funny. And if you haven't seen it, strongly recommend you watch Girls Trip. Tiffany Haddish, that moment when she gets the grapefruit and the banana, I lost it. People in the movie theater were just going wild. They were going bananas. It was just crazy. So for me, number 5, I have Girls Trip. Number 4, now this is also one of the movies that actually lived up to the hype, and that was Logan. The final chapter to Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine, a role that he was born to play. Now there won't be no more Hugh Jackman moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to use the Wolverine in the MCU without Hugh Jackman. That's going to be a little disappointing, but this movie, it was just so good, man. It's just all about Logan. It's all about him passing the torch to the next generation of mutants, and just a tribute to his great work over the last 17 years of being Wolverine. I mean, Hugh Jackman, you should check out the noir version of this movie. It's really good too. So that's Logan, number 4 for me in the top 10. Number 3, now this movie, it's a movie that most people hated, and then a lot of people loved, and a lot of people just never want to watch this movie again, and that's Mother. Now, Mother was a cinematic experience. This movie was something that once you saw it in the movie theater, it was just crazy. People were literally pissed off leaving the movie theater. People were pissed off during some of these cringe-worthy scenes, some scenes that are just so brutal just to our sensibilities. Like some of the stuff that's happening, it has a lot of stuff that people relate to, like the stuff about global warming, stuff about God, a lot of analogies and similarities to all those classical stories. So it's just fascinating. Jennifer Lawrence, I mean, if you like Jennifer Lawrence, this movie is literally like 90% through her freaking close-ups in her face and her point of view. So Jennifer Lawrence, if you like her. If you don't like Jennifer Lawrence, you're not gonna want to watch this movie because it's literally all about her. So this movie movie for me was number 3 just because it was just an experience, stands out from the rest of them of the year. It's just so much going on. I don't want to get into spoilers, but this movie is crazy, especially that scene with the baby. Man, that was just crazy. That's number 3 for me. That's Mother. Now the number 2 film that I absolutely love, the 2017. I could have picked the number 1. I decided to go with number 2, and that's B-A-B-Y, Baby Driver by Edgar Wright. Boom, Baby Driver, just such a good movie. It's maybe the movie that I'm gonna be watching as time, like 10 years from now, 15 years from now. I will be watching Baby Driver because it's just so fun. The soundtrack is amazing. And a lot of movies have great soundtracks, but this soundtrack was literally written into the story. So the song comes on, it's part of the story as it moves forward. It's not just added on in post-production. It's just so awesome. And if you haven't seen it, a lot of people got discouraged from this movie because of Kevin Spacey after all this stuff came out. But this movie is just so good. Even Kevin Spacey's pretty good in this movie. Everyone is good in this movie. Jamie Foxx, great villain. Check out this movie, Baby Driver. One of the best of the year. That's my number 2 of 2017. Now, the hardest choice I had to make was picking this one as the number 1 movie of 2017 because there's so many movies I loved. And this one is a surprise for me, how much I love this movie. But also, I shouldn't be surprised because it's Disney Pixar's Coco. There you have it, Coco, number 1 movie of the year. Coco just hits me on so many strings because I grew up in the similar culture to Coco. I grew up Mexican. So I understand like the first 30 minutes when they're setting up the plot, the setting, everything that's happening, the town, the celebrations, the interactions between family members, like everything just felt so real. Something that just you've seen before. If you're Hispanic, you know what I'm talking about. And this movie is so good. The soundtrack is excellent. And this movie is just such a fun movie, visually stunning. Because some of the scenes, like it felt like it was a real town and then they just added like freaking animated people on it, and then the Land of the Dead, just fucking colorful layers upon layers. I didn't have high hopes for Coco coming in because the trailers didn't really give it justice. The trailers, it just seemed like a whatever movie. But this movie is awesome. I went to see it with my family. I know a lot of people saw them. They took their grandmas, they took their moms. They even have Spanish versions of this movie. The Spanish version is also very good. I mean, so if you're Mexican or Hispanic, if you want to see it in Spanish, like a lot of movie theaters, especially or here in California, I don't know around the United States, but here in California, some theaters were showing the Spanish dub version, and that one, so your family members are able to see it, because my mom, she can't go watch movies because she doesn't really understand it that much. So when she got to see this movie, she got to see it in Spanish. It helps out the community here in California or here in the United States. And this movie for me was the number 1 movie of the year. I know you guys are going to disagree with my list because no one is going to have the same list as mine. It was hard for me to leave out Dunkirk because also a great cinematic experience by Christopher Nolan. You had Blade Runner 2049. There were so many movies in this year that were just so good, and also a lot of shitty movies. And speaking of shitty movies, tomorrow I will be doing the top 10 worst movies of 2017, and that includes Justice League, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching. Please let me know in the comments. Please let me know which ones you think don't deserve to be on the list, because I know some of you guys are going to be disagreeing with my list. So thank you guys for watching. My name's Angel. This has been a Warm for Views, and as always, hit me up.